5 reasons why dark chosen ones can heal even demons. There's a truth so powerful, so ancient, and yet so misunderstood that most spiritual systems avoid it entirely. It's not because they don't know it. It's because they fear it. The truth is this: the ones who walk in darkness, who have touched the edge of madness, who have bled in silence, who have been broken open not once but countless times, they are the ones who can heal even the most fallen beings. They are the ones who can sit across from a demon and not flinch. The dark chosen ones. And yes, they exist. And yes, they are real. We've been conditioned to believe that healing only comes from light. That purity is born of distance from sin, from pain, from shadow. But what if I told you the opposite is true? What if the most powerful healers are not those who escaped the dark, but those who befriended it? Those who stared into the abyss and saw not death, but truth. Those who met the monster within themselves and chose not to kill it, but to understand it, to integrate it. That's where real power comes from. That's why demons listen to them not out of fear, but out of recognition. Because the dark chosen ones speak the same language, but from the other side.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
I know this path intimately. I didn't choose it. It chose me. And if you're watching this, maybe it chose you too. Maybe you've always felt different, not in the quirky way, but in the haunted way. Maybe your life has been a series of initiations disguised as losses. Maybe you've been through things that should have shattered you, but somehow you're still here. Still breathing, still feeling, still fighting even when you don't know what for. That's not weakness, that's the mark. The dark mark. The sign that you were never meant to be ordinary. You were meant to remember. But what does it mean to heal a demon? Let's get real. A demon is not just some winged creature hiding under your bed. A demon is a frequency, a distortion, a being that got locked in a cycle of pain so deep it forgot its own origin. Demons are not born evil. They are born from extreme disconnection from source, from self, from love. They are the echoes of trauma that never found a voice. And because they cannot feel, they feed on fear, on projection, on unconsciousness. That's why most people fear them. But the dark chosen ones, we don't fear them, we recognize them. Why? Because we've been there. We've been the ones screaming in silence, craving release, not knowing how to ask for help. We've been the ones people call too much, too intense, too broken. We've been the ones who carried the weight of generations, feeling everything and understanding nothing. And in that crucible, something extraordinary happened. We didn't just survive, we alchemized. We turned the poison into medicine, and that medicine isn't just for us. It's for the fallen, even the ones who no longer remember what light feels like. So the first reason why dark chosen ones can heal even demons is this: proximity to pain without identification. We've walked through the fire long enough to know how to stay centered in it. We don't collapse when something screams in our face. We don't flee when darkness rises. We hold. And in that holding, something miraculous happens. The demon, for the first time, is seen, not judged, not cast out, just seen. And that alone begins the unraveling of centuries of distortion. The second reason is emotional fluency. You cannot heal what you cannot feel. And most people are terrified of their own emotions, let alone the emotions of a being made entirely of suppressed rage or sorrow. But we are emotional empaths. We've spent lifetimes learning how to feel everything without drowning in it. We can sit with terror, with grief, with shame, and we don't numb it. We breathe it. We listen to it. And that makes us bridges. We become the translator between the demon and its own soul. The third reason is energetic integrity. We've been tempted. We've been offered shortcuts. We've been seduced by power, by revenge, by escape. And we've said no, maybe not always at first. Maybe we had to fall. But we learned. We learned what it means to hold power without using it to dominate. We learned what it means to walk with truth, even when no one believes you. That gives us a kind of energetic signature that demons cannot fake. They see it and know this one is clean. Not perfect, but clean. And in the spirit world, that's everything. The fourth reason is non-duality. We don't see the world in black and white. We've lived in the gray too long. We're not here to destroy darkness. We're here to liberate it, to show it that it too came from the source, that it too has a right to return. That's why we don't banish demons. We invite them to remember. And sometimes that invitation is more terrifying than any exorcism because it means facing the pain that created them. And we're the only ones who can hold the space for that kind of confrontation. The fifth reason, we've healed the demon within ourselves. That's the final test. You can't face what's outside until you've faced what's inside. And we've done it. We've met our inner monster. We've asked it why it exists, what it wants, what it's protecting. And we didn't kill it. We loved it. We reparented it. We gave it a voice. And in doing so, we became something the world doesn't understand. Whole. And only the whole can heal the broken. Let me ask you something hard. What if the demon you're meant to heal is the one you're still afraid to acknowledge inside yourself? What if the part of you you've labeled as wrong, dark, shameful is actually the key to your power? What if everything you've run from is the doorway to everything you've prayed for? Think about that. Sit with it. Because in the next part, we're diving deeper, not into more information, but into initiation, into what it really means to walk as one of the dark chosen, how we're trained, how we're tested, and why our wounds are not flaws, but codes. Into the abyss, why darkness is the gateway to true spiritual power. There's a moment that every dark chosen one remembers, even if we don't speak about it. It's not the moment of awakening, no, that comes later. I'm talking about the moment we fell, when the light we knew disappeared, when everything we thought was secure shattered, when the voices got louder, the silence got heavier, and the world stopped making sense. That moment when we were stripped of identity, safety, innocence is not a punishment. It's a threshold. And crossing it doesn't mean we're broken. It means we've been chosen. You see, light initiates through clarity, but darkness initiates through disintegration. Everything has to dissolve. What we thought we were, what we thought we wanted, even what we thought was real. It all collapses. And that's why most people run from it. But those of us who stay, who sit in the ashes, who stop trying to escape, who decide to feel it all, we unlock something ancient. We begin to see that the darkness is not the opposite of light. It's the womb of it, the source, the space before creation. And when we learn to navigate that space, we gain access to spiritual power that cannot be taught, only earned. Let me tell you something that might shock you. Demons respect those who've walked through the dark and survived. They can sense it. They know if you've truly been there, because you carry a different frequency. Not polished, not performative, but primordial. You don't just recite mantras, you embody them. You don't just chant protection spells, you are the protection, because you've already faced the thing most people are still trying to avoid, yourself. Do you know why most light workers burn out? Because they're trying to hold light without ever integrating their shadow. They're trying to save others while still hiding from their own pain. But we, the ones who've descended, know that real healing doesn't come from bypassing suffering, it comes from witnessing it. Not as a victim, not as a hero, but as a mirror. That's why we can sit across from darkness and not flinch. Not because we're fearless, but because we've already befriended our fear. We've given it a name. We've listened to its story. And in doing so, we've robbed it of its power to control us. There's a reason the mystics, the shamans, the seers, they all retreat into caves, into silence, into solitude. Not to escape the world, but to merge with its undercurrent, to taste the void, to dissolve identity. Because only in that emptiness can the true self emerge, and that's what the abyss gives you. It takes everything away, but only to reveal what was eternal underneath. It's a brutal gift, but it's a gift nonetheless. And when you come back from that place, you don't return empty-handed. You return with codes, with keys, with the ability to speak to the unseen, to feel what others suppress, to stand still in the face of chaos and become the eye of the storm. That's what makes a dark chosen one so dangerous to systems of control. Because we can't be manipulated through fear. We've already danced with it. We can't be bribed with illusions. We've already lost everything. We can't be silenced, because silence is where we were forged. Now let me ask you something. What if the pain you've been avoiding is the very portal to your purpose? What if the depression, the anxiety, the heartbreak, the rage, what if none of it was random? What if every crack in your soul was carved to let the light in from below, not above? And what if every time you resisted your darkness, you delayed your destiny? You see, there's no shortcut through the dark. There's no spiritual fast path to wholeness. You have to walk it, bleed through it, breathe through it. You have to lose yourself so completely that when you finally return, you're not returning to the old self, you're returning as something new, a being that no longer seeks validation because you've already validated your existence through survival, through truth, through transmutation. This is why demons fear the dark chosen ones, but also why they're drawn to us. Because somewhere deep inside their distortion, they remember the original frequency. And when we enter their field with full presence, with no fear, no judgment, only clarity, they feel it. They feel home. Not because we coddle them, not because we fight them, but because we see them. And in that seeing, the healing begins not just for them, but for us too. If you've been walking through hell and wondering why it never ends, maybe it's because you're not lost. Maybe you're initiating. Maybe the darkness isn't trying to break you, it's trying to reveal you. Maybe you're not being punished, you're being prepared. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into this sacred preparation. We'll explore why your deepest wounds are not flaws, they're invitations, maps, sacred codes that reveal your path, your power, and your purpose. You'll understand why being broken was never the end, but the beginning of your return as a wounded oracle. The wounded oracle, why your pain is the map to other realms. There's a secret buried in your scars, a message encoded in the ache that never fully went away. And if you've ever wondered why healing sometimes feels like dying, like disintegration, like being dismantled one cell at a time, it's because it is. Not the death of your body, but of the illusion. The illusion that you were ever powerless, that you were ever unworthy, that you were ever separate. Most people avoid this process. They numb it, suppress it, escape it. But you didn't. You endured. And because of that, you carry something sacred now. You've become a wounded oracle. What does that mean? It means your pain is not just a wound, it's a map. A multi-dimensional key that opens doors no book, no guru, no religion ever could. Because it's yours. It's coded in your vibration, your nervous system, your timeline. And when you choose to feel it fully, not to wallow in it, but to witness it, it begins to shift. It starts to glow. And soon you realize that every trauma, every heartbreak, every betrayal was not a detour from your path. It was the path. You don't become a healer by studying healing. You become a healer by being broken open so many times that you stop fearing pain. You stop reacting to it. You start listening to it. And in that listening, something ancient awakens. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this showing me about the world, about the collective, about the hidden? Because that's the role of the oracle, not to escape the world, but to see through it, Have you noticed that the more you heal, the more sensitive you become? Not just emotionally, but vibrationally. You walk into a room and feel the residue of arguments that happened days ago. You touch an object and sense the grief of the person who held it last. You dream things that later come true. That's not delusion. That's data. That's the result of being stripped down to the soul's raw perception. Your pain has refined your antenna. You're now tuned to frequencies most people can't even admit exist. That's why demons listen to you, not because you shout, not because you command, but because you tremble with truth, because you've suffered without becoming bitter, because you've carried your shadow with grace, and in doing so, you've become something terrifyingly rare, honest. And demons, as twisted as they are drawn to honesty, because it reminds them of what they lost. The wounded oracle doesn't try to fix others. We don't diagnose. We don't prescribe. We witness. We hold space in a way that makes people feel seen without being exposed. We don't rush healing. We don't force light. We trust the timing of the soul, even when it's slow, even when it's silent. And that patience, that sacred neutrality, is what allows even demons to soften in our presence. Because for once, they're not being fought. They're being felt. I think about your own life. The people who changed you the most, were they the ones who gave you advice? Or were they the ones who simply sat beside you in your darkest hour and didn't flinch? The ones who didn't try to fix you but just loved you there? That's what you've become. That's what your pain trained you for. You are now the one who can sit with the unbearable and not look away. But let me be clear, this isn't about glorifying suffering. We're not here to romanticize pain. We're here to transmute it, to take what nearly killed us and turn it into medicine, not just for others, but for ourselves. Because the wounded oracle doesn't live in constant agony. We learn to find joy not in spite of the pain, but through it. We laugh deeper, love harder, breathe fuller, because we know what it feels like to lose those things. And that knowing is power. There's a reason ancient cultures revered wounded healers. The shamans, the seers, the oracles, they were all marked by trauma. Not because suffering made them holy, but because healing made them whole. And in wholeness, there is wisdom that no doctrine can teach. Only the soul can remember it, and only through descent can it be retrieved. So I ask you, what have you survived that you've never honored? What part of your story have you tried to erase, even though it holds the key to your gift? What if your deepest shame is actually your most sacred initiation? When you stop hiding from your own wounds, you stop hiding from the world, you stop pretending. You start radiating a frequency so raw, so real, that it becomes impossible to ignore. That's why demons don't run from you. They recognize you. They see in you what they forgot existed in themselves, the potential to return. In the final part of this journey, we'll explore what happens when you fully step into that power. When you stop being a survivor and become a mirror, a cosmic reflection that even the darkest entities cannot lie to. You'll see why the final right of the Dark Chosen One is not to fight demons, but to remind them of who they are. The final right, becoming the mirror that even demons cannot lie to. There comes a point on the path of the Dark Chosen One when you stop seeking answers outside yourself. Not because you know everything, but because you finally remembered that the truth doesn't arrive, it awakens. The final rite is not a ritual, not a ceremony, not even a moment you can capture. It's a becoming. A quiet, irreversible shift when you realize you no longer need to fight the shadows. You have become the mirror, and in your reflection, even demons are forced to see themselves. You see, darkness cannot lie to a mirror that has nothing to hide. Most people walk through life projecting illusions, defending wounds, wearing masks. That's why they attract chaos. They're not grounded in truth. But when you've stripped yourself bare, when you've wept all the falsehoods out of your body, when you've sat in silence long enough for your soul to speak clearly, you become a force that cannot be deceived. And in the spiritual realms, that's the highest currency, clear perception. A demon can deceive the mind. It can manipulate emotion. But it cannot stand in the presence of someone who sees it exactly as it is. Because that kind of seeing is not an attack, it's a mirror. And mirrors don't judge. They don't punish. They simply reflect. That's what makes it unbearable for the unhealed. And that's what makes it transformative for the ones ready to return. You don't need to raise your voice or summon light from the heavens. You don't need to recite ancient languages or wear symbols of power. Your presence is the ritual. Your stillness is the invocation. When you've walked through your own hell and survived with your heart still intact, you emit a frequency that doesn't need to be loud. It is the law. It is the truth. And in that presence, entities that thrive on distortion begin to unravel, not because you force them to, but because your energy makes distortion impossible to sustain. That's the final right. Not slaying the demon, but liberating it. Not by condoning its actions, but by revealing its original face before the pain, before the fall, before the forgetting. Because every demon was once a being of light. Every shadow is born from separation. And separation is healed not through violence, but through remembrance. You are that remembrance. But this level of power comes with responsibility. You can't use it for ego. You can't weaponize it to feel superior. You can't use your mirror to shame or control. That's how you fall. That's how you become the very thing you were meant to transmute. The mirror must remain clean, and that means constant self-reflection, constant humility, constant devotion to truth over comfort. So ask yourself now, are you willing to see what others refuse to? Are you willing to carry the weight of clarity even when it isolates you? Are you willing to be the one who holds space for healing even when everyone else is still addicted to the war? Because if you are, then you're ready. Ready to walk not just as someone who survived the dark, but as someone who serves it, transforms it, redeems it. You are not here to destroy the old world. You are here to outvibrate it, to create a field so coherent, so honest, so clean that distortion cannot survive in your presence. That is the work of the final right. That is what the demons fear most. Not your light, but your clarity. Not your strength, but your stillness. The world doesn't need more warriors. It needs more mirrors. More humans willing to see clearly, love fiercely, and walk gently with the power of 1,000 lifetimes humming in their bones. That's who you are now. Not just a dark chosen one, not just a wounded oracle, but a mirror of the divine reflecting even the fallen back to their truth. So go, walk into the spaces most avoid, speak what others fear to say, love where no love has ever entered. And when you meet the next demon, don't fight it, see it. Because in that seeing, something ancient awakens not just in it, but in you. And that is where healing begins. And now, your real journey starts.